Dvorak.
Here. First item on the agenda is approval of agenda. I see no additions or corrections other than what was sent out. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second. Roll call?
Anderson.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Dvorak.
Yes.
Mordini.
Yes.
Sarchet.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 4 is public comments. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council on any item on the agenda at this time? Hearing none or seeing none, moving on to item 5. Item 5 is presentation of letter of appreciation to Phil Watson, Water's Edge Marine. It's all yours.
Sounds good. Kind of give you guys a little bit of background. Back in when Interim Chief Sanders was here, I kind of approached him and said, hey, you know, with both bodies of water being very close, while we have throw bags and throw pillows, I said it might be a good idea to look at getting possibly life vests for our department for each patrol car. He was on board with the idea, put me in charge of kind of doing research, went online, learned a whole bunch about life vests in a little bit amount of time, and so we wanted to make sure that we had enough buoyancy that we ended up having to go in the water with all of our gear on, that we had enough buoyancy on the vest that would keep us afloat. Reached out to Chief Gevins, checked out the stuff that he has on his boat, and we pretty much mirrored exactly kind of what they have, because obviously, you know, they would potentially have some gear on there. So we went ahead and kind of priced them out. And one day I was on patrol when I was working day shift. I just thought, you know, to try to keep business local, that I would reach out to Phil Watson at Water's Edge Marine, just see if he would be able to, you know, give me a price. Because we were, I mean, the budget item had already been approved by Roger. Reached out to Phil and immediately gave me a price and said, how about I just donate them? I said, well, you don't have to do that. I was like, we're ready to. And he's like, no. He said, no questions asked. He's like, I'm ready to donate. He's like, you got to do a bunch for us as the police department, as a city. So he was graciously enough to donate. It would have been about a $500 purchase if we would have purchased them. And so, yeah, it would be approximately a $500 donation that he made to our department in the city. So on behalf of the Polk City Police Department, Phil, here's a letter of appreciation. And appreciate everything you've done for us. Yeah. By the way, he donated the pillows. There you go.
Okay.
Photo op.
All right. You bet. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It was dependable. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it. Next item 6, is consent agenda. Any questions or comments? Otherwise, I'll take a motion.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Sarchet.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Dvorak.
Yes.
Mordini.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 7, new business. Under item 7, action item 1. DART is here to make their annual presentation, and Mr. Van Ord, I'm not sure who's all with you tonight, so we had all sorts of things to count. So
Mandy Wonky is here, and
Perfect.
Judy just sent us a text and says she's hitting every stoplight between here and.
well, there's not many between here and there. I have to say, once you get into town, we're limited on the stoplights.
So she will be here shortly. I think I just saw her, so she'll be here to help answer any questions as well. We have a brief PowerPoint to share with you, and thank you for the opportunity. For the record, my name is Steve Van Ort. I'm a Polk County Supervisor from District 3, as well as the Commissioner for DART, representing Polk City, Holloman, and Ankeny. That's it. For some of you that don't know me, before I was Polk County Supervisor, I was Mayor of Ankeny for 7 years, and on the City Council before that, and I've always appreciated the great working relationship that Polk City and Ankeny have had. And I know that relationship continues, and the relationship that you have with Polk County as well. We certainly appreciate it. My district, I have the unincorporated part of Polk County that's to the south of Polk City and to the east. And Bob Brownell, as you know, is your supervisor. But we're always here, a little side note, but we're always here as supervisors to help support you in any way that we possibly can. With that, we'll get into our presentation, and we will be as brief as we possibly can to open it up for any questions that you might have. Historically, I don't know if a lot of you know the history of public transit in the Des Moines metropolitan area. I have been on the board of not only DART, but before that, the precursor was the Metro Transit Authority. And I've been a commissioner or board member for 12 years now. I was part of that change from becoming the Transportation Authority to the Regional Authority. The original, and it dates back 25 years, it was Des Moines, Windsor Heights, and West Des Moines. They were the Metro Transit Authority. Ankeny had express service, as well as Altoona, as well as Urbandale. We contracted with MTA for that express service. We had a couple buses in the morning, a couple buses in the afternoon, but we really had no control over what the programs were, what the service levels were. And 10 years ago, in 2015, it was Des Moines, Windsor Heights, and West Des Moines. They were.
Yeah.
Continue.
No attention is paid behind the curtain.
I'm very careful about You can go to the next slide.
He's lip syncing.
Yeah.
Words may be used against you.
And I have the microphone, and I have the wrong, I'm talking into the wrong end of the microphone. Inside. When we began to talk about a regional transit authority, and we wanted to make sure that every one of the communities, all 18 communities in Polk County, would have the opportunity to be involved in that. We are now the largest public transit agency in Iowa, and we're serving a lot more people today than we were 10 years ago, 11 years ago, 12 years ago. The question always was, how can we become a regional transit authority? Funding mechanism, we'll tell you a little bit about that coming up, but it's always a challenge to be able to fund a growing transit authority. And if you could move to the next slide, please. How's our ridership changed in the last 11 years? The last year of the MTA, ridership was at 3,690,422. FY15, 10 years later, ridership's at 4,427,626. This coming year, and we have a slide to show you, we're about 4.8 as we wrap up this year, ending June 30th. We're on pace to do over 5 million rides next year. You can go to the next slide, please. Some of the things we want to talk to you about tonight and answer any questions that you might have of what is DART? What is the Des Moines Area Regional Transit Authority? How do we get to where we are today? How are we doing? And we want you to help take our pulse. DART is just not buses running around Polk County. It's a way of connecting people to their jobs, people, as here in Polk City, using the on-call service, being able to get to Ankeny, being able to get to Grimes, being able to get to Johnston for doctor's appointments, shopping. How do we connect those people? And how do we connect those people with opportunities? We're going to talk about the DART service here in Polk City. Amanda's going to jump in and talk about the DART Forward 2035 plan. We're 5 years old in that plan. One of the things that I said when we began DART was, yes, we have to find out a funding mechanism, and we are using property taxes, our funding mechanism all across the county and with all of our partners. But if we're going to spend this money, we're going to spend it on. Just like you just finished your comprehensive plan. We did the same thing. We've never done a plan like that. But what does public transportation look like in 2035? And we're reaching out to all of our member communities right now, and Amanda will talk about some of the programs and some of the things we're doing to make sure that we're reaching out, not just to riders, but to non-riders. Why aren't these people riding using public transportation? And are there things we can do better? And then we'll open it up for questions. Again, thank you very much, and we appreciate this opportunity. I'm going to turn it over now to Elizabeth Prosciutti. She's the CEO and General Manager of DART.
Thank you. Thank you for having us this evening, Mayor and Council. We're really pleased to be here and share a little bit more about DART. Flip to the next slide. So we have 3 primary services that we offer. Our fixed route system, which is your traditional bus service, traditional bus stop, larger bus going in a fixed pattern with regular time points. Our rideshare service, which is our van pool program, and our paratransit service, which is our complimentary ADA service for those that can access the traditional fixed route service, whether it be for a cognitive or a physical disability. Again, our one tidbit on our rideshare program is we do provide that service extends out about 80 miles outside of 80 to 100 miles outside of central Iowa. So we have people that commute up to 100 miles in one direction to get to employment sites in and around the region. And so we have about 600 customers that utilize that service on a daily basis with over 90 vans. And we have vans throughout the region going to not only employment centers in Des Moines, but to rural employment centers as well. We have 274 employees, and we have 150 buses in our fleet, and again, 90 rideshare vans for our van pool service. And on any given weekday, we provide about 16,000 rides in the metro. As Steve, Commissioner Van Ort touched on, our ridership is approaching is over 4.8 million this current year, and that's on all three of our services. The stats that Steve had, or Commissioner Van Ort had talked about prior was specific to fixed route, which is the biggest bulk of our services and ridership. And so, again, our goal is to get to 5 million rides, and we're hoping to accomplish that in fiscal year 2017. As you can imagine, our biggest expense is salaries, wages, and fringes, and fuel and lubricants, all of which keep the buses rolling. On the revenue side, property taxes are our biggest revenue source, followed by fares and contracts, as well as state and federal grant funding. And about over 25% of our revenue comes from fares and contracts. And when we look at ourselves in comparison to other transit systems across the country, we're doing better than average. The industry standard for what you recoup based on fares for a transit system is in the neighborhood of 20%. So we're feeling very, very good about that. And DART will be celebrating 10 years this year. We've accomplished a lot in the last 10 years. We've expanded our service hours significantly and added a lot of service throughout the metro, including the regional on-calls, which service Polk City. We started our unlimited access program where most of the larger employers in the Des Moines metro participate. They pay DART a set fee on an annual basis, and all of their employees can ride for free. We've added bike racks on all of our buses. We have 8 hybrid electric vehicles in our fleet. As Commissioner Van Ort touched on, we've adopted and implemented our DART Forward 2035 plan, and we're in the process of updating that plan. We were able to fund and construct DART Central Station in downtown and replace the Walnut Street Transit Mall. And then we've done a lot in technology, particularly in the last 3 years. So we've installed automatic vehicle location system technology on all of our buses, and that's really enhanced what we can deliver to the customer. So now our customer can track all of our buses via their phone, via the internet, through apps. You can also call and get real-time information, and just really trying to make DART much easier to use and much more friendly, and try and take the guessing out whether you missed the bus when you get out to the bus stop. So it really has enhanced what we can offer to our customers. So we do have a couple of services that we offer here in the Polk City area. And the first primarily being our on-call, which operates a few days a week in the middle of the day, really being connectivity for seniors and those that don't have transportation options to get to medical appointments and to shopping. There is the Route 98 Express route, which comes into Ankeny, and there are several park and ride lots in Ankeny that are being served by that express route. So we have the Polk City on-call, which goes between Polk City, Ankeny, Granger, Grimes, and West Des Moines. In fiscal year 14, we provided 578 rides. Last year, that grew to well over 650 rides, and we're on pace it's dropped to hopefully make those numbers again this year in 2016. And then we also offer the Ankeny Express, and there are several park and rides that those that would come down from Polk City to connect to that they can ride in from. So being EMAC as well as Mercy. Those are our most heavily used park and rides on the Ankeny Express. And so now I'm going to turn over to Amanda Wonke, who's our new Engagement Communications Officer. She's been with us just about a year now, and is heading up our Dart Forward update, but also our engagement activities throughout the region. And she's going to talk a little bit more about our planning efforts and our engagement efforts.
Thank you so much for having us. Like Steve said, there's been a lot that's changed and happened over the last 10 years. As we look to the future of transit and mobility in the region, there's going to be a lot more that changes. And the Commission adopted the Dart Forward 2035 plan 5 years ago. It's our long-range plan, meaning how do we go from what services we have today to what Polk City and other communities will see in 2035, and how do we meet the needs that are there. And 5 years is just a good point to update any plan, but there's also been a lot that's changed. Uber and Lyft weren't around 5 years. iPhones have been around less than 10 years. So if we look at how that's changing, the world and expectations around technology and around transportation are changing, as is our community. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. What I wanted to show you with this map, and I apologize, it's a lot of information to see at once, but this is the Dart Forward 2035 Service Improvements Map. This shows what has been changed or added since we began implementing the Dart Forward 2035 plan. So the purple shows where there are expanded service hours, meaning that we're running later at night or earlier in the morning. And yellow is showing, yellow is expanded service hours. Can't read my own. And then purple is the improved service frequency, meaning that the buses are coming more often. And the green is expanded or new routes. And we have seen a lot of growth on the routes that we have added or expanded. One thing to note as we look at what we're seeing as a region is we are seeing a lot of non-traditional reverse commuting in terms of what's happening in our community. A lot of things have changed, and a lot of our low-income population lives in the urban core of Des Moines, but a lot of our jobs are now in our suburbs, in West Des Moines, in Ankeny, in Altoona, and we need to help those people to reach those jobs. So one of the most successful routes was the addition of the Route 52, which goes from West Des Moines to downtown and back and forth. And I just note that because as we look to the future, those sorts of routes that are bringing people in and out all day are really important to the future of our region. So just wanted to share with you that. And then the next map I'll show you, this is our paintball map. The red is 2010 boardings, and the blue is 2015 boardings. And so we did this as a comparison to see where people are boarding. And you can see there's a lot of growth in the Ankeny area and in West Des Moines, Altoona, Johnston. So you can see the suburbs are really growing. The downtown core is still very strong, but we're seeing a lot of growth that we need to figure out how to meet now and in the future. So with that, I wanted to get to what we're doing in terms of the update. I'll have you go to the next slide. So we are, like I said, updating this plan, and we have 4 key objectives throughout this. Engaging the public. We want to make sure we hear from everybody, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Determining how population and development patterns have changed. Like I talked about, some things have changed with our community. We're growing faster than we expected. Our senior population is growing. What we're seeing with young professionals in terms of transportation is changing. So we want to look at all of that and make sure we're planning well for the future. We also want to analyze ridership and service performance, what's working well, what's not, and how do we make sure we're providing the most efficient service we can. And then in the end, we want to really develop a plan that's consistent with other plans our region has. We have the Tomorrow Plan, we have the Capital Crossroads Vision. We do a lot of efforts as a community to think about what do we want to be in the future, and we want to make sure that what we're doing for transit lines up with that. So with that, as I mentioned earlier, Greater Des Moines is changing. This map shows the projections we first used for the Dart Forward Plan 5 years ago, and on the right shows the projections we're using now, what we had initially anticipated reaching as a population in 2035, we're going to reach in 2020. So our population is changing faster than we expected. As I mentioned too, we're seeing changes in where jobs are located and how people are getting to those jobs. We're seeing changes in our senior population, and a lot of changes in what young professionals and millennials are looking for in terms of transit. And really, one thing as we look to the future is options. And so we know that in 2035, transit isn't going to be just buses on roads. You look at the on-demand pieces of it, you look at car sharing, carpooling, a variety of the options that are out there. We know things are going to look different. So we want to start planning for that now. And as I mentioned in the back in the objectives, we have wanted to hear from the community throughout this process. And so we have had a public involvement process the last several months in which we've had more than 5,000 respondents to surveys. We have done an online survey and a print survey for riders and non-riders, and then we also did a survey through a market research firm of non-riders. Because like Steve said, we wanted to get at what non-riders think and believe about what transit, the role of transit in our community. And we are working on summarizing those and sharing those with our member communities, including all of you in the future. But there are some key takeaways from all of the regions that we have been able to summarize from that feedback, and that's the next slide. There's a few key things as we look to the future that we see this draft plan having based on the feedback we receive. One is really looking at our key corridor service. We know that any effective transit system has to have a few key spines that people are getting up and down, whether that's 2nd Avenue, 35W, 235. What are those key spans, and how are we helping alleviate congestion in areas where that is a challenge? So looking at what those key corridors are. Another concept is mobility hubs, and we have seen this in other towns. A mobility hub is a place where someone has an option to grab multiple sorts of transportation. Dart Central Station downtown is essentially a very large mobility hub. You can rent a bike, you can store your bike, you can get a bus, you can call a taxi, and they'll know where you're at. And so what we're looking at as we look to the future and are seeing in other communities are almost mini mobility hubs where there might be a bike rack, a place to do bike sharing, possibly a car share or two, and places that you can grab your Uber or your bus and go from there. So looking at multiple ways for people to get around. We know as people look to the future, they want more amenities in terms of transit. Everybody wants to be able to access things easily on their phone and other places. They want it to be more enjoyable. And we are doing a pilot of Wi-Fi on buses to look at whether or not that's something that riders find is helpful in the rider experience. We also know that people want more frequent service, and along with that, later service. One big thing we've heard throughout this has been the need for third shift employees who don't have transportation. We've been contacted by multiple businesses over the last few years, that are running into challenges. Our low unemployment rate is great, but sometimes transportation is the one thing that's standing between someone and a job. So we want to make sure that we are meeting those needs that are out there. And then opposite those who are maybe dependent on that, also those who want it and want it now. And like we talked about, our culture is changing in terms of that, and how does public transportation change to meet what's going on in the on-demand culture we have as a growth. So the last slide I'll share with you is just our timeline and next steps. We are right in the middle of this timeline. As I mentioned, we have been doing our data assembly. We've been gathering our public input. We now have a very preliminary draft plan, and it has some key concepts such as those I've shared with you in it. And we are gathering some initial feedback from key folks on that. And then we are working to put together that plan, and we'll be bringing the draft plan out to the community and the public. And we'd love to come back later this fall with the draft plan to gather feedback from all of you and make sure it's on track with what you see as your needs in the community. And then we'll be bringing it back to the commission hopefully around December. You'll see there's also the arrow underneath there. Steve mentioned earlier the short-term and long-term funding. And as we look to the future, we know alongside with planning for the future is how do we pay for it. And so the commission is having a lot of conversation around what those options are and how we best get to the future and make sure that we are really being visionary and thinking ahead so that we are proactive as a community in terms of where we need to be in transit and keep this a number one place to work, live, and play. With that, I'm happy to take questions or have the Commissioner or Elizabeth.
So one of the biggest challenges in all this, and congratulations, we did it in 15 minutes. One of the biggest challenges with this is how do you fund it? And you know, as council members, federal funding was a big piece of the pie 10, 15 years ago for public transit. It keeps shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. Federal dollars were a big piece of the pie when it came to infrastructure, and it keeps shrinking and shrinking. Other states, and we've looked at a lot of different models of different cities our size. I visited Grand Rapids in the last 6 months, have been to Kansas City. Their public transit system, but also spending a lot of time in how is it being paid for. Des Moines Area Regional Transit is unique because we are a regional transit authority. Kansas City, it's the city of Kansas City. Grand Rapids, it's sales tax. And then the cities, there's only 4 member cities and in that county, in Kent County, and they pay into it. So it's a different model. In Michigan, the state legislature has set aside a big chunk of money for public transit, and probably because of Detroit and some of that. But the Transit Authority in Grand Rapids gets a big chunk of money from the state. We get $1 million. Well, that buys 2 buses. I'm not crying, but I'm trying to explain that we're really working hard to figure out how do we take the weight of property tax away and find that new revenue stream that we can continue to fund DART and grow. We really have, the system, once we put the DART forward plan in place, just skyrocketed. We're a victim of our own success right now. The DART forward plan was one of those things that we had not planned on doing an update, but we said we have to do an update because we're blowing the numbers, but we're also really touching the top end of what we thought the costs would be. So we put any growth on hold for the past year until we finish this plan. Quite selfishly, we'd like to be in the discussion on sales tax, the option sales tax. Just give us this much. So if we can get enough to give some property tax relief, not to have to come to you and say, we're going to be raising property tax 2 cents or 3 cents or what, but we can wean ourselves away from that. I'm digressing, but I think the financial part of this discussion is extremely important. And I want you to know, as a commissioner and as a commission, we're not letting that elephant float out there in the room. Mm-hmm. So it's
So to that end, I think this makes a lot of sense, and it's good to see the plan going forward, and we certainly want to be aware that we are part of a greater metropolitan area, and it's good to see this out there. I'm obviously most concerned with what we have going on here. So if I hear you correctly, your options are to try to avoid property tax increases and look for revenue outside of that?
Well, and maybe you can help answer this. When we put the Regional Transit Authority in place, when the state gave us the authority to form the Regional Transit Authority, they capped what we could levy, property tax levy, at 95 cents. Some of our member cities, that's based on, there's a different formula. Some of our member cities are almost capping at 95 cents. We don't want to, and I'll say this out loud, we don't want to have to go back to state legislators and say, we've hit the cap, now what can we do? We'd also like the state legislature to set aside, or have a set aside of funds of more than $1 million for public transit. So, repeat your question with that.
Well, actually, I think you changed my question. So if the cap's 95,
right,
I would assume that should be tiered where Des Moines, you have a bus stop potentially blocks from your house, as opposed to, if I understood correctly, the only option if I were, as a Polk City resident, as a ride share, right? So I shouldn't be taxed necessarily the same as if I have a bus stop right next to me. Is that true?
That's correct.
Yeah, and I will preface this is that the formula is imperfect. It's not 100% equitable, but when it was established that there was some tiering that was put in place based on when you entered into DART and what a community started out with. So there is a graduation. The
But
challenge
per the
with-
legislation, the cap is the cap
The
regardless of
cap
where
is-
you are.
Yeah, and so the challenge that we're facing is that some of our larger member communities are approaching that cap. Once they cap, then it's a race to the top for everybody else, the way the formula is structured. And we recognize it's a problem and an issue and something that we are working to address and working with the commission to figure out what the best solution is in the short term as we move forward, and then long term from a funding source standpoint, whether that be property tax or some other revenue.
When you, it makes me nervous when you keep saying property tax. Why not?
Me too.
Well, from a pay-to-play perspective, why not raise the fares for those that use it? Because a lot of us, kind of what Rob's saying, a lot of us, we don't use that. And what's hard for some people in a smaller community to stomach is when the larger communities keep coming to us and say, we don't have enough money for Metro Star, pay part of it. We don't have enough money for this, pay part of it. We don't have enough money. Well, we're trying to make those same strides here. So why not do that? Or is it capped, or how does that work?
There's, we do, as we look forward into the future, there are planned fare increases. The challenge we get into is we're kind of based on the level of service and the market, our fare is fairly high as you look at other cities across the country. The other challenges is that there's a correlation between increasing fares and ridership, and so you typically see a drop in ridership, so they almost negate each other out in the short term from your loss in ridership and the fares versus the people that stay and pay the increased fare. And so it's a balancing act that we have to take into account as we make those adjustments and make those recommendations.
And along those lines, Elizabeth mentioned earlier that more than 20% of our revenue comes from fares and contracts, such as our limited access partners. We have contracts with them, and more than 20% comes from fares and contracts, and it's above what the nationwide average is. And our fares, like she said, we compare closely. We were just in Kansas City, and theirs is at $1.50. We're right at $1.75, and there's a couple who are at $2. So we try to be very careful that we're holding the what's best and balancing those needs. But all public transportation across the country is subsidized in some way from other options, and we want to look at the diversification of those options from what are our conversations with businesses to sales tax to property tax. And how do we best get there? And one of the questions we asked in our survey, and as I mentioned, we got very general results back, and what we're trying to do is distill it down for each of the communities so you can understand at least what people in your region think about public transit. Though we did ask a question related to ranking various transit investments and where people would rank them, and we gave them 5 options, including public transit, expanding roads, widening roads or new roads, one related to the bicycle network. And across the region, public transit was number 1. Like, if people wanted investment. So what we read that as part of the challenge then is, well, people want it and think it's important. We know we don't want to get greater congestion, right? That easy commute is part of what makes this great place great. But how do we figure out how to pay for it? And we're trying to balance out all of those options with the commission and as the staff, and bring forward some ideas and recommendations of how we could look at things other than just property taxes.
One of the programs that I'm very interested in continuing to pursue is the unlimited access. Nationwide, as a company, has an unlimited access program. Show your ID, and that's your ticket to get on the bus. So if you, and Wellmark as well, Polk County, as of July 1st, will be a member of the unlimited access program. It's a great opportunity, great program for those employees to use public transit. Biggest challenge we have downtown is they're all building parking structures to make sure they have enough parking spaces. If they would either stop building them or charge the employee to park, they'd ride the bus. But if you have people who live in Polk City that work for Nationwide, they can go to a park and ride in Ankeny, and they've got a 20-minute pop downtown. They can be working, as we've talked about, we're looking into Wi-Fi. There's a lot of different opportunities. So we really need to push that. And it's not going to be a huge revenue source, but every new revenue stream we can create, that we can look for, we're going to be successful. And every reason that we can give to the citizens of Polk City to use public transit That express service starts at 6 o'clock in the morning and goes till 7 o'clock at night. It's all day. So if I ride the bus in the morning, I'm not stuck till 5 o'clock. And that's part of that expanded service. So I guess we need to do some education too. And we're trying to get that message out as well.
And one other technology project that we're working on and hope to have it rolled out by the beginning of the year is mobile ticketing. And so being able to pay for your fare by the phone. And it opens up a whole lot of other options for us to offer different fare products to employers, human service agencies, and that sort of thing, to be able to provide better access to the system for those customers and clients and employees.
So I do want to go back to, the ridership slide. So the numbers that you had listed, 578 for last year and 665 for, 14 and 15. Was that Polk City only, or was that Polk City, Grimes, and Granger?
It was for the entire on-call piece.
Okay. Do you have any numbers for us specifically?
It's a little challenging with our system. We're getting ready to change scheduling systems to get at the exact number, but it's something we can try and see how many origins were specific to Polk City.
And this is the on-call, which is actually different than the ride share. That is one number we can look into too, is how many folks are using the ride share service. The on-call is specific during a period of time. Someone can call ahead and make an appointment and then be taken to anywhere within the network during that time. So it's more of a door-to-door type service. And then there's
there's a fee for that.
Yes.
I'll look at this. First of all, thanks for coming and presenting to us, but we also have a obligation to advertise this so that the citizens know that it's available. So, we are paying for it and we need to utilize it. So the better we can increase these numbers, the more value that will be seen anyway. So Jake, I don't know what we're doing so far, but let's take a look at how we're advertising the services. And I don't know if you have templates that show here's what you have available to you. I don't know if we have that out there yet, but I think we need to. On our social media website, I don't think we have that on there. So if people don't know about it, they're certainly not going to use it. They don't know it's an option. So
We have information we'd be happy to get to you and make sure that we're keeping you updated.
you guys agree?
Absolutely. So we got a platform to jump off of, so.
Great, thank you.
I've got probably an obvious question to everybody in the room but me, but for those that use the bus all the time, you mentioned paying with your phone and different fares and stuff. Can they just buy a monthly access pass and just swipe it, or however you do that?
Yeah.
Day pass, month pass.
Sure. Anything else? Thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Steve, you
having us.
started with your relationship with Ankeny and Polk City, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I appreciate the long-term relationship that we've had, both with you and with Ankeny, as well as with Polk County within the last 2 weeks. I've now talked to you, Mr. Hawkins-Smith, and had lunch with Breno. So the relationship that we have with Polk County, I personally truly value and appreciate, and I know the rest of them do up here too. But
We're only as good as we all work together.
you do a very good job, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Item 2, consider motion to approve resolution 2016-59, approving Lost Lakes Estate preliminary plats 3 and 4.
Good evening, Erin Olendike, Civil Design Advantage. My address 3405 Southeast Crossroads Drive, Suite G, Grimes, and here tonight on behalf of the Development Project Diamond Development LLC. We are here to request approval of a preliminary plat for 69 single-family lots. This preliminary plat will complete the Lost Lakes development. I kind of got my overall diagram here. This is Lost Lakes Plat 2. I got it actually, or the wrong way, I apologize. Well, you can't see it as well, but, okay, thanks. Playing that very well.
We have plenty of time, as you can
Sorry.
tell.
We got plenty of paper clips too.
Okay. Lost Lake Estates Plat 2 is to the south, and then Lost Lakes Drive comes up and connects into Prairie Ridge Drive. 69 single-family lots. They're all a minimum of 80 foot in width. We are providing sidewalks throughout the development, and then we're also providing a connection over to the trail that goes basically from Big Creek all the way down to Saylorville. We're still working out that detail with the Corps, but we're hopeful that they will allow that connection. So I guess with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. We have addressed all comments from Snyder Associates letter.
Just the general location, the at the north or the top of the page there, is that that cul-de-sac right by your hand?
Yeah.
Would that be basically where the famous wetland?
Yeah. Isolated wetland?
So I mean, it takes it all the way to that house, I
It
guess.
does, yeah. So this is Prairie Ridge Drive right through here. This is TCI Plat 4.
Right.
And then as you go further.
I couldn't remember if Knapp kept a portion of that or if it's all.
No,
Okay.
no, yeah. So this would be the end of the Lost Lake development up there. Parkland was dedicated with Plat 1.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um,
how did you know I was gonna mention something about that?
I just knew.
Yeah, yeah. So to that point, I did read that you had to pay some back because the dedication wasn't completely,
Correct.
right?
We're a little shortage on the area for the park.
Yep.
And so they will be constructing this trail connection. And then they constructed a water service into the park in Plat 1, so they'll get credit for that. And any deficient amount, they'll I guess, pay money that can be used for improvements to that park.
So I guess my comment is, and it's nothing bad to the developers are taking advantage of what we have here as far as developments go, but I don't like the fact that there's a payout, if you will, for not hitting our parkland dedication. Again, I would be doing the same thing, but we're missing out on 0.8, acres of parkland dedication by just being able to pay back, $6,000 or $7,000. So I don't know if that's something we can. Why not? Why are we not making? Because they're not going to make more land, and it's always been a discussion. It comes up a lot.
Well, part of it is that, we have a formula that we ask for land. The developer can give a monetary dollar amount back.
So I think we should change. I think that should be changed. I don't think it should be an option. Different discussion, but just had to. I just don't find that okay, I guess, because there's a reason the formula is there. It's because of the density of the people. We know we're getting middle class, or not middle class, but middle-aged folks, all gonna have kids, all gonna use parkland. It has to be usable parkland as well. So let's look at that sometime.
I think the bigger discussion that we need to have when it comes to that, not to totally digress off of your project here, but is that we're continually getting these little pieces of ground that aren't amounting to much, and it's at the developer's discretion as far as what they're giving us. And we've got lots of little chunks of ground that I know Mike and I've talked several times. But I think that's things that we need to discuss at some point.
Yeah, thank you for addressing.
Yeah, I think that's the crux of the argument, rather than a certain or a set amount, a little bit of discretion on our part. An acre here is worth an acre and a half over here to maintain neighborhood park fields that we're not getting away from. So, but again, out of deference to Aaron, I'll make a motion to approve. Sorry, I lost my. Motion to approve 2016-59.
Second.
Roll call?
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet, Anderson,
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Motion carries. How many homes? Sorry,
69,
69. And kicking off pretty quick, right?
very quick. In fact, I think they're taking down the trees.
Right, because 2 and 3, right, everything was, or 1 and 2 were pretty well done. Wow. Thanks. Item 3, consider motion to approve 2016 vehicle purchase proposal for 2015 Dodge Charger police vehicle, amount of $32,336. I know we've all had several conversations with Chief Kendig. If there's any other questions, I'd take them. Otherwise, I'd take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call. Oh, yeah, go for it.
I would just like to throw an attaboy out there. Only been on the job less than a week and already found this opportunity for us to improve our fleet for our police and save money doing so, so I just, like
You
I
don't
told,
get a new car every week, though.
like I told them at the time, it's just showing that we made the right decision, so.
Agreed.
One thing to add too, we're trading in the old car, which is in there. I'm hoping that'll cover a lot of the costs of buying the car and getting equipment changed around also. I'll have a final number tomorrow, but I'm hoping it won't be higher than this. It may be a little bit, but with related costs for it. But
So should we approve more than, if you think it may
Probably.
be?
I mean, can't you just lease equipment in it if they have to?
We just,
And equipment is necessary. Okay.
Can we do that?
You've already got plus related vehicle purchase fees.
Okay.
yeah.
So, right, it's great enough.
So I think you're okay.
Perfect. That was your motion and second, right? Who's second?
Sarchet,
Okay, perfect. Roll call.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini.
Yes.
Motion carries. Great job. Go move. I know you're like been chomping.
sorry for my casual attire. I'm moving into town tonight, so we're gonna go back and get back
Not
to
an
it.
excuse. Good job. Did you have anything else to add on the police department?
No, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I've been on vacation, so
What?
I'll be back.
Thanks. All right. Item 4, 2016 street repair project. Item A, description and anticipated cost of the project.
I think, Laura, are you doing this one, or is it Mike?
Whoever. Nobody jump at once.
We're bringing forth the engineering services agreement for the 2016 street repair project. It includes, I believe, 15 locations throughout town, mostly concrete repairs, maintenance, and some asphalt or hot mix asphalt pavement maintenance operations. The fee structure is $18,125 for engineering and $21,315 for construction-based services. And there's a map attached to the project packet there that shows you the locations around town. Touch on that?
No, as you can see, we're touching a lot of town here on this list. We're pretty much all over the place and finishing some things up. And like I said, we threw some crack sealing in there on Parker Boulevard and West Washington and out on Madison and 6th out there also to try to shore those roads up and get those cracks sealed out there too. So yeah, we're pretty much all over town there getting these things buttoned up, and it'll be nice to complete this list and then start a new one, I guess, in the future. But it'd be nice, this area is completing this list that's been around for quite some time.
Just gonna ask how long that list's been around.
I believe at least 10 years.
Wow.
And we've made a lot of progress over those years, starting up in the West Side Drive area and then working our way through those areas.
Well, since you didn't have anything in the budget meeting that you wanted to add, it makes it a lot easier to approve stuff like this. So I think strategically, this does make a lot of sense, given some bucks that we have maybe going forward, as we talked about, and have beaten to death a bunch of places. And I was joking about that.
I know.
So I think this is positive.
One other thing, this is in the budget coming up July 1 starting. And we are going to go ahead and get this thing. What we're deciding here is we would like to move forward and give the contractor the availability to do it this fall or next spring. And we don't want to tie it into this fall because we're uncertain of those numbers. But if we give the developer or the contractor the option, we feel that we may get a better price for spring. But if they're open and they have, somebody has a nice bid this fall, they can start it too. We just are going to put a limit on when they can start in the fall, so it doesn't prolong over the winter. We want a fall project or a spring project, and we'll bid it accordingly.
Perfect. That, any question? Yeah.
I reluctantly ask this, but I know I'm going to get calls in the morning. Why this and not doing Davis Street?
Well, do you want?
Yeah, Gary, we still have the plan in place for Davis Street, correct?
Davis Street is going to be spread over 2 years as council has directed. Council also directed in the budget negotiations and talks that we finish off this project with $300,000. $300,000 is, we'll need 3 times that to do Davis Street.
Well, I understand that part of it, but the rest of it, I just, when people call me, I want to have answers. I don't want to tell them, well, gosh, I don't know. I want to have answers as to why streets that have been around 10 years or whatever are getting attention over a street that's, everybody agrees is the worst in town, that's been around 40 years. So I just need answers.
I think the big answer is that this completes the 10-year list that we've been on, right? I mean,
And a lot of it is still pavement maintenance, not pavement reconstruction. There is some pavement reconstruction, but it's like maintaining your car. If you don't maintain it on a regular basis, your investment goes downhill.
My point exactly, thank you.
And then you end up spending money like on Davis.
We got one up there that's been around for 50 years.
And Juliana Court is also in pretty bad shape as well. And
Right.
Yeah. I wouldn't disagree with any of those things, but I know I'll get calls, and I know people that live up in this part of town feel they've been neglected over the years. So that's why I bring it up. That's what I'm here for.
You can remind them that they've got a new intersection.
Well, I think they're very aware of that.
Item B, consider motion to authorize Snyder and Associates engineering agreement in the amount of $39,440. Take a motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 5, consider motion to approve third reading of ordinance 2016-1600. Take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 6, consider motion to approve third reading of ordinance 2016-2200. Take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini.
Motion carries. Item 7, consider motion to approve Edgewater Extension Water and Sewer Plans.
These are in front of you. This was a last-minute ad as we found that these were going to be ready for tonight. The developer, Bruce Lefko, wants to get started with this, and along with this would be the ability of the church to connect into the water and sewer that would be going up Edgewater. And these approve the water and sewer plans.
So moved.
Second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Dvorak.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 8, Mayor's Reports. We'll be having another meeting July 11th at 5 o'clock, right? As we did tonight. So I'm putting that on your agenda. Couple other quick things. Since we met last, a couple weeks ago, the Des Moines Convention and Visitors Bureau was in town, had their golf outing up at TCI, and had a lot of really nice compliments from a lot of people all over the metro area, mayors and council members and celebrities and of the such. So they really enjoyed Polk City and had a good time up here. We welcome them. Also, Chief Govins and myself attended a Kiwanis meeting, their 70th anniversary kickoff, and I told Mayor Heiritz that I would announce that they are in the midst of their 70th anniversary, and so we will be hearing more about that over the coming year, I'm sure, as well as anybody else wants to hear. They've had presidents since 1946, right? Yeah. So anyway, that was a good good dinner. We got to go up there, and anyway, that's about it. Just those couple quick things. Yeah. Dan enjoyed himself. Mr. Mordini. Oh, recently retired Councilman Mordini, if I don't mind. Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good for your advanced age.
You know, taking players from running.
Yeah.
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Sargent.
Just one real quick thing. I think, given that we started our budget process, we had the DART meeting, I think it's a good reminder to be looking at what's on your property tax statement so you're aware of where your money goes. And I think oftentimes we hear that painting with a broad brush statement of my taxes going up and ours have not, but other areas may. So I think it's important for people to know that they are paying for DART, that they are paying for broad loans, that they are paying for certain services in schools and cities and all those things. So given that we had that discussion tonight, I think it's a good reminder I know that I need to look at in my own. So.
Mr. Anderson?
Nothing.
Mr. Lane?
Nothing other than last time I asked the guys to be thinking about what you want to do toward commingling. At our last board meeting, it looks like there's some rumblings of putting this off as much as 3 years before a decision is made. So it's not as critical as it once was, I don't believe. But I think I know everybody's thinking from the survey doesn't make much difference one way or the other to our citizens. Most of them will continue doing what they have been.
Mr. Dvorak?
Don't have anything.
Perfect. One last thing under council discussion is last Friday there was the Sounds in the Square. I think that that event is going to continue to grow. There was a lot of people down there again last Friday. It was the same as a month ago. And I applaud PCDC and the Chamber for coming up with that event. It's a good event, and I'm looking forward to that event growing. Lots of people out, coming out and just getting around town, and the businesses were packed down there the whole time. So it was very nice. City Administrator?
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Attorney's report?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Engineer?
Nothing.
Public Works?
Nothing.
Technology?
Had a quick 3 things. Had a busy past couple of weeks. We're actually wrapping up our curb stop inventory. Something I've been working on in tandem with the Public Works Department quite a bit. Willie Ostrander has been a key player in that. And we are down to just the really, really finicky old curb stops that are hard to find because they've either been sodded over, ran over, removed, what have you like that. As soon as we get that pretty much 100% wrapped up, which is going to be here within the next couple of weeks, we're going to be moving into the sign inventory implementation. This is going to be the federally mandated one that they keep pushing the due date back for, but it's obviously still going to be coming down sooner or later. Mike and I had the chance to go over to the city of Ankeny and meet with Brent Estrom and Greg Householder from their science department, and Brent's actually their GIS coordinator over there. Got a lot of good pointers on kind of how to set up our inventory and kind of move forward, and how to just everything from the actual GIS side that I deal with to sign installation and maintenance on the public works side there. Lastly, Thursday, or last Thursday, I had an RGIS Next Generation 911 quality control workshop that I attended, or I should say Wednesday morning, I believe. They're looking to standardize more so and verify the accuracy of 3 key data sets that the county runs, or the RGIS runs: addresses, sub-addresses, which would be like apartment complexes, and street center lines. These are used by emergency responders and the public safety answering points, PSAPs here in the community. So that's Des Moines, Polk County, as well as I believe it's Westcom. They basically use all that data for their actual responding, to just kind of be able to see exactly the second you call in on the Next Generation 911, you are actually generating a location that you are calling from, and it's a pinpoint location. So that way, if you have a dropped call, if you have something happen, they can still at least have a location to be responding to. Just a note, Polk City is in the top 10 of data accuracy for the RGIS commission, if you will. It's 0.59% inaccurate or 99.41% accurate. And I have something that I can kind of pass around. This is actually a report generated by the RGIS.
Is that within the city or is that, what area is that?
What's this now?
That's within the city limits, right? That's
Yeah,
not like
that
state of
our,
Illinois.
yeah, our data stops at the city line or city boundary, so.
Might go down if it went out there.
Would you attribute that to the infrastructure we put together, the data that we've been able to, I mean, basically
it's been
accumulate, or what do you attribute the accuracy to?
I would say because we were approached by the regional, we were approached by the regional GIS group about 4 or 5 years ago. And that's when we actually joined. We drafted up a contract, everything else, and we actually joined and became an active participant in that group. Had we not done that at that point in time, this would be kind of just left up to some random either county or Des Moines official or somebody else like that. That, don't get me wrong, they're still going to have a vested interest in public safety and everything overall, but they aren't going to have nearly as much of a vested interest as somebody in-house taking care of your own.
Dedicated resource. Yeah. So the accuracy is only as good as the people you have, the person that's taking care of it. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah. That's all I got. Sorry. Didn't get the topics to that.
Thanks, Jake. Fire department?
You know, the only thing I have is I forgot to say thank you for this new budget process that we started. I appreciate the opportunity to have the dialogue this far out, so we can, that'll help a bunch. So.
We'll see if
I meant
Mike,
to say that at the beginning.
We'll see if Mike
I'm
takes
trying to
us
just kill time right now, so Mike can't.
Yeah, I know.
No, but seriously,
Not at all.
I appreciate the change to the process. I think it'll be really
What was
good.
that? What was that, Mike?
No.
Nothing? All right, just checking. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Police department, we already heard from him. Library?
Just a couple of things. Of course, our summer reading program has started. And as of tonight, when I came down for the 5 o'clock meeting, we have 263 kids registered for the summer reading program. But on top of that, Suzanne is going to all 3 of the daycares, so you can add 120 kids on top of that 263. And then, of course, Pam does the adult reading program, and so far we've had 33 adults turn in their reading logs.
Cool.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Citizen liaison? Nothing. Take a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
I